Let's
Awesome.
roll with it.
Ma'am. Mrs. Wells, thank you so much for being willing to do this. I love the backdrop there. That's a great backdrop.
It's really hot. See, it looks pretty, but it's hot.
I bet. So for those of y'all that are watching maybe for the first time, this is what we call a director chat. So Mrs. Wells is a director with Classroom Conversations. So ma'am, if you could just briefly introduce yourself, if you could share how long you've been homeschooling, how long you've been with Classroom Conversations, and how long you've been directing, that would be awesome.
All right. My name is Stephanie Wells. Let's see. We've been homeschooling for, this will be our third year. This is our third year. We've been with Classical Conversations for I guess this is our third year of Classical Conversations. We started at another site, a really big site that was maxed out. And after our first year, my oldest had just finished kindergarten. They asked if I would open a new site. And I said no, because I was comfortable. And my SR came back to me and said, I want you to pray about it. And I said, okay. And she came back to me and said, have you been prayed? And I said, no. Because I do not want to know what God's answer is, because I feel like it might be yes. And she laughed at me and told me to get on my knees. So I did. Our community, our area already had 2 sites that were maxed out. Like there was for real a need. Like there was a waiting list to get in both sites. Nobody could get in. So I went through and finally decided yes. But like I decided that summer in June that I would do it. And we started in August for the new site. So we had a wait list, but as you know, like it just, I can't handle the dogs either. A wait list is great, but it ends up giving you a false sense of who might register. So once we started going through and registering families, we had maybe half of the registration or interested families that joined. We ended up with 10 registered kids, 2 of which were mine, that did PC. I'll give you a different backdrop. I had to get out of the dog viewpoint. Let's go over here in the shade. So that's what we did, and it was great. Sorry, now I have to wave to all my neighbors. We had 10 sweet families, very young families. Some kind of weird bird in the street. Very young families. Like we had a full class of little obesitarians, and I mean little obesitarian boys. And then everybody else was the other class, and I didn't have enough tutors, and everybody was new, and there's 10 kids, and I had 2 families that were moving to us from another state. So they weren't even here yet to have this conversation, and I ended up being both director and tutor that last year for the first year.
Wow. Okay, so that's no joke. So and I think this is the first ever mobile interview that I've ever done.
Right? So. The joy of internet, man. I taught online for a couple of years. When I started having kids, I left the public school system and taught online. I learned how to move around a lot.
That's right.
I got to keep it interesting.
So you were a public school teacher, ma'am?
I was. I actually have a doctorate in math education from the University of Georgia.
Whoa, no way. How long were you a public school teacher, ma'am?
10 years.
Wow, that's awesome. That's great. And so then the transition to homeschooling. So this is great. So it's
different.
Yes, ma'am.
I taught middle school and high school. So this young, like my oldest is going into 2nd grade. So this is a whole new world. And not that I didn't, I loved what I did in public school, but I knew as soon as we were having kids, we were like, you're not going there. I mean, I love what I'm doing there. I don't want you in it.
Wow. Okay.
It's okay for me as an adult to choose to be there and be on mission there and be involved in that. I did not want my kids in that. Wow. Like you are not equipped to handle what I'm involved with on a daily basis.
Wow. That's a great perspective. So ma'am, so the question of the day for you is, can you give, or what would you say would be 3 tips on directing a small community?
My first is just to embrace it, man. It's so great. We had 10 kids. It was such a small community. I think we had 11 in nursery. I mean, that tells you like how the ages played out. But we knew each other so well. Like I knew none of these families walking in the door. Not one. Change that. I knew one. One came with us from the other site um, to do this site. I was really excited about it because her son was my son's age. Her daughter and my daughter did gymnastics together. So like we were invested with one another, and she came with us. Everybody else new to CC, new to me, never met him before. We were all strangers on day one. And they are some of my closest friends now. They're the people I can call if anything is happening, you need help with anything. That is who I call, because those families, like we became intimately involved in one another's lives. It was so small, you can't help but know each other, and know each other well and love each other. And it didn't matter that like your kids might be across different spans. I mean, obviously you heard me say they were very young, but we had one class that was from kindergarten to fourth grade. And then we had one class that was all pre-K. So it was like, like we just learned how to make it work. And I was concerned what families would think about a class that was like the big group, and nobody cared. The kids didn't care. They had a great time in there. I didn't have like my fourth grade, she wasn't my fourth grader, but one of the fourth grade girls, her closest friend there was my first grade daughter. Like they became really tight. They also, I told you they did gymnastics together, but it changed the nature of their relationship where they like learned how to use each other's gifts and advocate for one another, where they saw weaknesses for each other that played out both at school and when we went to gymnastics. It was really cool to watch how the families just like really got involved.
Wow, that's
one of our families is adopting internationally right now, so we have the rest of our families that are like coming behind them to support them and carry the load of what that's going to mean when they come home, how to make sure their kids can stay in CC when they'll come home with a child that will be in that time that they need to kind of cocoon them and protect them for a while. It's been great to watch how those small families come together.
wow.
I loved it. I didn't think I would, but I really loved it.
That's great, man. So the first tip would be like embrace it, and then what would be some of the other tips?
My next tip would be not to try to overthink it. Like I felt like with small communities, you're always trying to do everything the big communities can do, the field days, a huge yearbook. And I was like, I can't make that happen. So field day with 10 kids is kind of, well, not fun. There's only so much we can do. The other sites offered to include us, and we debated it for a long time. But by the end of the school year, it was not something like our families were really interested in. They were like, like we love them. We do some field trips together, but it creates a really big scene versus what we were used to and our intimate group of families. So instead, we just did something with our kids, like our community went and did something together and made things that looked different, and that was okay. I was like, I can't do everything that big communities do that have a lot more money to roll with certain supplies and roll with having certain things. We don't have that. And the families didn't care. They were like, we want it to be about us and what serves our family. So for me, it was like, don't overthink it. They are not coming expecting you to give them like some dog and pony show. They're here for the purpose of classical conversations. Now you get cars driving by, which is stick in the sand. Quit trying to overthink it and do more than was necessary. And so I backed off and was like, our tutors, well, there was one other tutor and myself, because I was both tutor and director, but really like talking about what can we do, what do we need to do, where do we need to back off and say, hey, you know your kids, let this happen, and keeping the families knowing what they were doing. My other thing was to equip parents, equip them quickly so that they feel prepared. I found myself by the second half of the year, I was doing both things. I was tired and I was burning out, and I was like, I don't want to burn out because I love this, but I can't keep doing it all. And so I went to one of the moms and said, I love you so much. You do such a great job. You have one child in class, the rest were in child care. She had a baby. That's one of the reasons she didn't want to tutor. She had a baby. But she went to tutor training with us, and then she had her baby. And she was like, I'll help as much as I can. So I put her in charge at the end of the day. Like, she did the review activity so I could step out and be done and go do some other things and get wrapped up and cleaned up. So it was, learning when I had to step up, but I could train people throughout, and then delegating some of that out. now I refuse. They're like, oh, what are we going to do for your field trip? And I'm like, whatever you want to plan is fine. But, I think families just don't think about it. In a small community, it's really easy to set a precedent that I can do it all, because it's easy to do it all for 10 kids. Or say, oh, it's Christmas, I'm going to get them all a little gift. Don't do that. You won't be 10 kids forever. And you set a precedent. So I was really cautious about not doing anything that I wouldn't do if we grew to 48 kids, which is good because we're at 34 for next year. And to really hold back and just say, we're going to do what we do. It's stick in the sand. This is it. We're done. But I'm going to prepare you to do some of this yourself, because and I told them up front, I love you. I love doing this. I love these classes. I am not tutoring and directing next year. So be prepared and watch, because one of you is. And in the process, we made lists of things that they'd like to see happen, and I put it out there and said, sign up. Or it doesn't happen. I can't do it.
Wow, that's awesome, man. Great input. For those of you all that are watching that you would like to see Mrs. Wells' interview, again, obviously you can go to this link. You can also go to the CC's YouTube channel, Classical Conversations, and search the playlist, Meet the CC Directors, and you'll be able to see Mrs. Wells' interview along with the other awesome directors that we've been able to interview. And also feel free to go to classicalconversations.com/CC Director for more information on the possibility of directing if you all choose to do so. And obviously pray and Mrs. Wells, that was some great skinny, ma'am. Thank you so much for sharing, and thank you for your time, ma'am.
Thank you.
Have a great day, ma'am.
Thank you too.